Hello, YouTube. So the brakes on the '96 Camaro, they've always sucked. They're real hard to. Well, they sucked even when they were stock. And since then, I changed the rear calipers. The only reason I did that is because the guy I bought the my drag lights off of, he'd already had his calipers ground down to clear those 15-inch rims, and his was a fourth gen Camaro also. So that's the only reason I switched those out. But I did the ABS delete a few videos back. Y'all can check that out if you ever. Well, I mean, it works good. It don't leak, and I put a proportioning valve in it, and that does work. And then I put manual brakes on it. And now, ever since I put the manual brakes on it, you can slam on the brakes, and I mean, it'll stop you, but it ain't going to stop you. It doesn't stop you instantly like it should when you slam on the brakes. You slam on the brakes, it rolls just a little, and then it stops. So the brakes suck, and that is kind of dangerous. And which I don't really drive the car a lot. Just usually at the drag strip. Most of the drag strips have plenty of shutdown to be able to stop, especially Kentucky Dragway. It's got like a half a mile down through there. You could coast a little bit before you even have to worry about hitting the brakes. But anyway, that needs to be fixed. And I think the reason that it's doing that, the brakes are hard and it don't stop you fast. So one thing that'll cause that is the pedal ratio, from what I understand. So the shaft coming out of the master cylinder, if it's too low, it's going to make the brakes hard to push, and plus it's not going to apply that much pressure. Now, if you raise it up, well, when you have it low, you don't have to push the pedal as far. They're harder, but it doesn't create as much pressure in the master cylinder to, you know, to make it to the brake pads. Now, if you raise it up, you have to push the pedal farther, but it makes the pedal less hard, and it creates more pressure in the master cylinder. So, reading online, you're supposed to have a 5-to-1 pedal ratio. You have to do some measurements, and we'll do that here in a little bit once we take the brake pedal out. But a lot of companies recommend a 6-to-1 pedal ratio. And looking up in there, mine is tilted down. Brake pedal's on the tip of my finger. Mine is tilted down, so we need to raise that up some. And hopefully that'll make the pedal softer. We will have to push the pedal farther, but it will create more pressure, stopping pressure. So hopefully if we raise that up, when we slam on the brakes, it'll stop like that, like it should. But let's take the pedal out first. All right, to get the brake pedal out, you gotta take the kick panel out and this out, and there's just a few of these screws in here, like that one went in that hole. But there's a few of them. I've taken them out of the ones down here. I think there's actually a bolt for this one right here. I took it out because this holds all that. I just used that screw. I lost the screw and I had to put a bolt in that one, but yeah, I take all that out, this and this. And you'll have to, if yours has that rear defroster thing, you gotta unplug it. Plus I got my fuel pump switch I gotta unplug. So I lied, I did have one of the bolts still right there. But anyway, so I think, see, I don't know if y'all can see that or not. That's where it's bolted. I can't get it to focus back there. Anyway, it's bolted right there. And it does kind of go downhill some. So we have to take that nut and bolt out. I'm gonna drop the steering wheel. I think last time. Now usually there's a bracket here. I take it out. It's just something to help this stuff to connect to, but take these two bolts out and the steering column will drop down. I think that'll give us some more room to fiddle around in there. So we'll take those out and drop that down. It ain't easy to getting in there. It kind of sucks. Well, I dropped this down. It didn't seem to drop down much. It would drop down more if I took that bolt out under the hood. If you take that bolt out right there, it'll drop way down. It'll drop that steering wheel all the way down to the seat, which then it kind of gets in your way, but you can get in through the top better. But I'm gonna try to take it out without having to take that bolt out, because when you take that bolt out under the hood, it pulls that apart. And then you got to have someone, you got to pay attention to where the steering wheel was. Then you have to have someone line that up as you pull the steering wheel up so it goes in place. I don't really have nobody to help me, so we're just going to try to reach in there best we can and take those bolts and nuts out. I got this nut and bolt out that holds the rod from the master cylinder. Now the other one, I put a pair of vice grips on this side. Then I'm using that ratchet to go over the top and get that one. But it ain't easy getting in there. You know, I took all the AC and stuff out. I should have done this when I had the dash out. But oh well. With the dash out, it would make it a lot easier. Plus, if you was skinny and tall, it'd make it easier too. And there's the top bolt. It goes in from this side, and the nut. No, it goes that way, and the nut goes on that side. But anyway, see, I put vice grips on this because you could only get the open end of a wrench on that. But now the pedal should come out. Let's see. There you go. It's out. Now let's do some measuring and some math. See, now before the rules said, see, that's where it was before and it clipped on. It bolts through now. It said 1 inch up. So there you go. It's about 1 inch up. But now, some say 5-to-1 or a 6-to-1 ratio. So we'll have to measure from the center of this to the center of this, and then from the center of this to the center of this, and divide those. So I measured from the center of the hole to the center here, and we've got 12 inches. This is like 2 5/8. So if you divide that into 12, it's 4.57, I think. So we're not even at the 5-to-1 ratio. So for a 6-to-1 ratio, 12 divided by 2, that's 6. We would need to come 2 inches down. I'm not sure what the math would, 3, 6, 9, 12, 3 inches. So 3 inches would be 4-to-1. 2 inches would be 6-to-1. So what would 2.5 be? No, because we was at 2 1/2. Yeah, that'd bring it up. What would 2.5 be? So 2.4 inches from here down would be 5-to-1, and then 2 inches would be 6-to-1. I don't want to have to push too far down on the pedal. So maybe we'll put it at 2.2, which would give us a 5.5 ratio. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the 6-to-1 ratio. So I measured this hole, it's 0.70. Half of that is 0.35, because we want to go to the middle. So 2 inches minus 35 would be 165. I got that as close as I can. And then I'll just come off this edge and made a mark right there. So that should be 2 inches middle to middle. See if we can get this on 2 inches. And close enough. So, from the middle of that mark we made, should be about the middle of this. Maybe I'm not measuring something right or something. Or my eyeballs on the middle of this hole. Just ain't right. Yeah, that's about right. There. There. You have to look straight on it. Yep, about right. 2 into 12, 6 times, 6-to-1 ratio. And drilling a hole in this is not easy. It's amazing how little bit you move that makes that much of a difference. But everybody told me, I had posted this before on one of the forums on Facebook or Facebook pages or whatever, and they said to move it up a little. And our math said the same thing. This was a 4.5 ratio, I think. A 5 ratio would be here. That's why I'm not going there. It would get into this hole if I drilled that hole, so we'll just go all the way up here to the 6-to-1. I think that's what they recommend anyway. But let's try to drill that hole through this thick metal. No. Well, I didn't hit my mark exactly, but I measured with the calipers again. We're at 5.7 pedal ratio, whereas the other hole was, what, 4.5 or something like that. So that should make a big difference. But lube your hole and lube your bit so you don't burn your bit up. All right, hole is drilled. It's drilled and the bolt fits through. Actually, it's a hair too big, but that'll be all right. All right. Now putting that in is even funner than taking it out. Just reverse order. When you put this back together, these plastic sleeves fall out. Just make sure you got one on each side. And this goes through that way. And the bad thing about it is it's got to be lined up perfectly in the hole for that to go through there. Not easy to do. All right, brake pedal is in and tight, but now the arm that comes out of the master cylinder, where am I? We have to adjust it so there ain't no play when it's bolted to the pedal. And it has a little adjustment piece there, see? You got to break that loose, and then you can screw this end piece in and out to get your adjustment right. So we'll have to break that loose and get in there and adjust it to where the bolt will go through, the brake pedal's all the way back, and there's no play. I know y'all can't see up in there, but I readjusted that. I hooked it all up. Oh, forgot to tighten that nut. So tighten that nut back up that we used to adjust it. Put all this stuff back together and see what happens. All right, it's all back together. The pedal is easier to push and it does go down further. Well, let's see what it does. Well, it's way better. Way better. Yeah, that's way better. Still not perfect, but way better. That'll work for me. Oh yeah, it's way better. Yeah, that works way better. Awesome. It's weird how just moving that up, just that little bit made that big of a difference. That's awesome. Well, that was a job though, I tell you what. Look at my head. Messed my hair up and everything. Trying to get my big fat butt underneath that steering wheel. But that made a world of difference. It still ain't perfect. And maybe it would have been if I went to 6.0, 6 ratio. I didn't drill the hole in the right spot where I had it marked, and it wound up being like 5.7. But where it was at before, it was like 4.5 or something like that. But just moving that up, that little bit made a big difference. I mean, it'll actually stop and push you back now. But I mean, it could be a little better. Probably should have went up just a little bit higher more, which I meant to, just drill the hole in the wrong spot. But that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I don't have to worry about, you know, being before, if I was behind somebody, I had to be aware of how close I was to them because the brakes were that bad. Now I don't really have to worry about that. It stops good enough that if even someone slammed on the brakes in front of me, I'd be able to stop. All right. Y'all have a good one.